And says there's a big range in how much the government will make from the move.
Between 340 million up to 1.9 billion. That range is because, as I said, of the number of uncertainties, largely the price of gas this year, towards the end of this year and into next year, as well as the complex commercial arrangements we'll have to look at to see where the profits lie.
The Dáil will debate a motion tonight calling for the housing crisis to be declared an emergency. Sinn Féin submitted the motion after the Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien said he didn't believe it was an emergency. It comes as a new report shows the average asking price for rent rose 14% in the year to Q3. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou McDonald says the government hasn't properly addressed the failings of the market.
You say that housing is the number one priority for government, but the crisis in people's lives puts that claim to shame, Taoiseach. The government acts as if rip-off rents are a figment of people's imagination, and now the chickens of your inaction have come home to roost.
And a public holiday has been declared in Saudi Arabia tomorrow after the country's football team pulled off a shock win over Argentina at the World Cup. All workers and students are getting the day off to celebrate. And that's it for now. More at 8.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Beat the shopping queues with Ryanair gift cards this Christmas.
Wet and breezy tonight with some heavy downpours in places, lows of 2 to 5 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent mo.
This is News Talk.
Welcome along to Tuesdays Off the Ball. We've got a great show ahead between now and 10. Brian O'Driscoll will be chatting about Josh van der Flier being named as the World Player of the Year, just the third ever Irishman to do so, and Brian's disappointment himself about not winning the prize during his career. Marcelo Murray Araujo on Saudi Arabia's shock victory against Argentina. As you heard in the news, they've been given a day's holiday as a public holiday tomorrow after that win, just the third ever victory for Saudi Arabia at the World Cup and the most significant for them. It is a very poor start for Leo Messi's team in their bid to win the World Cup for the first time since 1986. Matt Slater will also have the latest from the ground in Qatar. Charlotte Dunkert will join us later this hour about Cristiano Ronaldo leaving Manchester United. Your views are always welcome, 53106, or you can tweet us at Off The Ball. Got Mick here with me. How you getting on, Mick?
How you, Will?
A little bit calmer tonight after last night's escapades?
A little bit calmer, yeah. Well, I've been trying to enjoy the World Cup, basically, Will, because I was told, the powers that be in Off the Ball told me, that if I didn't start behaving myself and being a little bit less angry, that I might get one less minute on the news round. So with consequences like that, I just thought I have to, just toe the line, really. And, all opinions and everything like that, all stances out the window.
Well,
this is real consequences.
It is. It feels like we've stepped into our DeLorean, though, given the top three stories tonight. Cristiano, Leo Messi, Roy Keane. Is this 2009?
Yeah. Will it ever change? We're just like, Ronaldo, he's in his final days. Leo Messi, not much left in the tank there. Roy Keane, I'm not surprised about. We're never going to... Roy Keane's always going to have a say in the news agenda of the day, for sure. But, it just feels like it's just going to be Messi and Ronaldo till the end of days. But
yeah. Interesting
in both ways, though. Like Argentina, that's like one of the biggest World Cup shocks of all time. And that Ronaldo news just came out of the blue. We were in the office sort of kind of calmly heading towards the show.
Like,
World Cup and Brian O'Driscoll, nice good shows to come. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa! They did it. Mutually cut ties.
A little bit quicker than we expected. We heard appropriate steps was the line in the short statement Manchester United put out on Friday. Those appropriate steps took about 3 days before there was an agreement to rip up the contract. Is this Cristiano Ronaldo getting exactly what he wanted, though, when he did the interview appearance?
Yeah, he totally set the wheels in motion for this. But United can't be... I don't know. I was talking about, should United be vindictive, kind of half facetiously, but also
extend his contract by a year.
There's a vindictive side of me as well that thinks that. But in reality, this is what United need. They need to cut ties with this guy. So it's an everybody wins situation. But Ronaldo forced the hand. I mean, there was no coming back from what he did. So you're right, he is getting exactly what he wants. But be interested to see what the compensation is and we might never know, and I suppose it doesn't matter really. You know, we worry a little bit about the business of football too much sometimes, but Ronaldo gone, and United certainly better off for it.
Yeah, I have both statements open in front of me. I think the most important line in the Manchester United statement is the third and final one, where they say, quote, "Everyone at Manchester United remains focused on continuing the team's progress under Eric Ten Hag and working together to deliver success on the pitch," end quote. That is pretty much the message United have been sending out all season about Ronaldo.
Yeah, absolutely. So, is it done? Is there much more to say?
I don't know. It depends where he goes. We've got Richie McCormack with as well. Richie, how are you getting on?
Where will he go?
That's the question, I think. And I'd imagine he probably has somewhere in his head, because if you kind of zoom out, the whole thing about this Ronaldo interview was clearly to engineer a move on his own terms in January. So he didn't want, similar to what happened in the summer, whereby he made it clear that he wanted to leave, but United were still going to be the architects of wherever he ended up, and they'd be the ones that are leading the discussions there, whereas he wants to do this all on his own, and he's now in a position to do that. And I think he probably knew that going nuclear and dumping on all and sundry around the club was probably his only and best way of achieving that. I don't think he cares much about his what's the word, his legacy or whatever else at this stage. I think his stats will be something he'll always lean upon. But as a person, negligible. I think everybody can agree, and that's without even bringing other dramas into it. Right,
let's throw it out there. Where could he potentially go, Mick? He referenced two clubs last week with Piers Morgan, Napoli and Sporting Club Portugal, who were the two clubs that he was heavily linked with during the summer. So he's kept the door open to both of them by mentioning it. And to me, Chelsea seems to fit.
No. Because Bowley, you think Bowley wants him?
I think Chelsea wanted him during the summer. I think Thomas Tuchel didn't want him. He wanted Aubameyang.
Slap in the face to Graham Potter if they go and give him the headache of Cristiano Ronaldo for the rest of the year. I don't think so. No.
Doesn't have a goal scorer. You've got Ronaldo even last year, even with his immobility up front, even with the fact that he won't press in the same way that perhaps you would want him in a Ten Hag system, he'd score goals for Chelsea.
He wouldn't. He's finished. Like, is that not obvious to anyone? Like, he might be score goals, whatever, but like as an asset in a winning world class team, he's finished. He has to accept that. I wonder behind all the bluster, does he actually accept that, or is he heading towards accepting it?
He absolutely doesn't accept it. I think that's clearly evident from everything that he's done in the past 12 months, that he thinks he is still the man, and he still thinks he's the best player in world football. He still thinks he's on a level with people like Kylian Mbappe, and he's just not. He's just not. Australia have taken the lead.
Australia.
Wow. Scenes.
So we had Didier Deschamps for the last 4 years plus being accused of being too conservative as a manager, was always safety first, even in 2018 when they won the World Cup. He's gone out with a 4-2-4 this evening, all of his attackers out to beat the Socceroos. And Mick, we've got a goal which has just gone in against the run of play.
Finish.
Yeah, against the run of play, but it's been, I don't know if Richie, if you've seen a bit more of this than I have, but it's been quite open. And like, we were having discussions in the office. Stephen Doyle was talking about like this being the worst Australian team of a generation, that they have two centre halves from Hearts who aren't necessarily even on the Hearts team, and they're up against Mbappe and these guys. But Australia do have that sort of ability we used to talk about in the Ireland of just sort of raising it for. They're always a good together team. They play a lot of games as well. In Asia, this is a great start. Good goal.
Weren't particularly good at the last Asian Cup, but it's a wonderful finish by Goodwin, who comes in at the back post, has timed his run quite well, and then lofts the ball over Hugo Lloris into the top of the net. So Australia,
France were wide open there as well. Like, I mean, alluding to what you were saying about their formation, like they were completely stretched there.
Yeah,
Hernandez pretty much injured himself watching a replay here in going down to try and stop the cross from coming across. But it's a great finish.
They are shocks.
Away into the roof of the net. And yeah, phenomenal stuff. Like, there is the caveat that France squad is decimated by injury, and you can't be, calling yourself one of the best teams in the world if you have Adrien Rabiot still starting in your midfield, which they do tonight. Like, one of the most charmed men in world football for being bang average, and yet at the centre of absolutely everything from major sides. But they could have a difficult, beyond today, they could have a pretty difficult World Cup, France, because I just don't think that the players that they've lost through injury have been backed up with what they brought with them to Qatar, and this could probably get even worse now if they've got another injury.
Yeah, Theo Hernandez has gone down in quite a bit of pain. He was initially trying to make that block. It looked like his right foot just locked up as he was trying to plant it into the ground. So he's getting medical treatment at the moment. That'd be a blow if they lose their left back this early in the game. And midfield has been an issue. Chouameni's been left with a lot of ground to cover during this game. And now Australia have got something to hold on to.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, they weren't great at the Asian Cup, but then again, neither was Saudi Arabia, and they beat Argentina today.
Yeah. And didn't Qatar win that Asian Cup?
They did, and looked reasonably impressive during it too, with Korea and Japan also coming up short.
Just for people, it's Lucas Hernandez. The Theo is on. It's the other Hernandez on the French team. But I think your point, Will, about Deschamps being naturally conservative, just looking through their team and their squad here, you almost have to play 4 attacking players because it's kind of all they have. You know, it's like we almost need to go and blitz teams with Dembele, Griezmann, Mbappe and Giroud tonight, but obviously they were hoping that was going to be Benzema. And because you can't rely on that midfield, Richie.
I saw that the other week when they brought out the squad, and it was glaring at me from that kind of
like Guendouzi is on the bench.
And to be fair to Guendouzi, he's a decent midfielder, but decent is about it. And if you're looking to go and retain a World Cup, you want better than decent in your midfield. And again, hamstrung by injuries, loads of players missing, etc., etc. Paul Pogba being one of those, and we can debate him till the cows come home, but he's always performed for France, particularly at this level. So if you're missing players of that calibre and you're replacing them with your Matteo Guendouzis and Adrian Rabiot's of this world, as a ski instructor from South Park would famously say, you're going to have a bad time.
For sure. Yeah, well, look, Kante and Pogba were completely crucial in Russia 4 years ago.
Kante, Jesus, yeah.
I'm not sure they're picking their best centre halves either. Like, I mean, are they? I'm looking at the bench. They've got Varane, Koundé, Fofana.
Varane and Koundé aren't 100% fit.
Yeah, I'm missing someone else there as well. Sorry, I've
gone for Canade and Upamecano.
Saliba.
Yeah, Saliba's been brilliant so far for Arsenal. Yeah. A richness of options, but not a richness of options in midfield, and the Socceroos' True Goodwin lead by 1-0 early on. Saudi Arabia, Mick, what a story against Argentina earlier today. 2-0 nils were pretty forgettable, with the exception of the Lewandowski miss for Poland from the penalty spot. But Argentina reminds you of 1990. I couldn't remember the goalkeeper who had lost the ball in the crappy quiz last week.
Gary Pompidou.
They lost 1-0 against Cameroon. They bounced back, got to the final that year. Italy lost the first game, got to the final in 94. Spain won the World Cup after losing to Switzerland in 2010. So it's not necessarily terminal to lose your first game, but Argentina are now up against it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, it's not terminal. I would still, like, if you were to have a bet now, you'd probably bet on Argentina to still get out of that group. But it was a disaster of a performance. So, like, Saudi Arabia were brilliant, and we should caveat everything we say about Argentina in that was class. That was a proper World Cup underdog performance that you love to see. What we're possibly going to see from Australia tonight, we'll see. It's a long way to go in that game.
Brave with it, Mick, as well. I don't think
they really were. Yeah, they kept going, didn't they?
Brave. It wasn't even that they kept going. They kept playing this high line that caught them out, obviously, in technical terms, those 2 goals that were disallowed in the first half. But they stuck with it, and the consequence of that was to squeeze what was a pretty unimpressive Argentine midfield. And with that, they were able to create their own chances. Like said, and that was from minute 1 to minute 90 plus.
Yeah,
like, they were fantastic, and the effort they put in from the whole game, and the bravery to stick to their plan throughout as well, and know that they could pick up a result even despite falling behind against a team with the players, the caliber that Argentina have. Just a remarkable achievement, and I don't think that should be undersold at all. And I don't think even just because of true familiarity that Argentina should dominate the conversation. That Saudi Arabia were brilliant.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, I just think we've all our lives we've been watching teams most of the time from the country that we're from, just like going ahead and then just sitting further and further back and just not playing, continuing what put them in the position in the first place. And it's such a natural thing to do. It takes so much discipline and effort and consciousness to continue to play in the way you have that's got you into that position, and they did, and fair play to them. Argentina, to me, as the game went on and we had more ridiculous amounts of injury time and so on, looked less and less like scoring. Messi was like, you could see that if he had players around him, he is in that kind of like looking for true balls, and some of them almost came off, and he was about to have a shot, and there was an incredible tackle from a Saudi defender that just timed it absolutely perfectly, just took it off his toe. But other than that, like, not really in it. Di Maria, his usual World Cup performance, I would say, on a lot of ball, doing absolutely nothing with it. And Argentina didn't look that impressive to me, Richie. I know you're right to talk about Saudi Arabia, and look, chances are they'll turn it around, and these teams haven't had very much time together. But this didn't look like this is like a vaunted Argentina team that were going to go and win the World Cup. It could happen, but they didn't look any different than the Argentinian teams we're used to seeing for the last few years. Yeah, we lost Richie.
Yeah, well, look, we'll talk to Marcel about that in a lot more detail a little bit later on in the programme, because I'd never thought I'd say this, but Giovanni Lo Celso was a player who looked like a big loss. We've talked about some of the players who were out, like Sadio Mane and Karim Benzema, but Lo Celso was so important for Argentina in winning the Copa America last year. And that unbeaten streak, which was kind of their shield going into this tournament and the confidence they were deriving from it, they hadn't lost a game, Mick, since the 2019 Copa America final against Brazil, unbeaten in 36 games.
I know, and it's a great achievement, and it is what it is, but you know, it was always with that caveat that they still haven't played a European team, I know that, and it's not as if the standard in South America would be any worse than that in
it's a full qualifying campaign in a difficult
conference. It's very impressive, but it also isn't, you know, world beating. It's not something that you're like, God almighty, they went through and they beat the Dutch and they beat the Germans, they beat England, and they're just dominating the game at the moment, that they're the team to beat in the World Cup. I just feel like we weren't sure, and how it played out was more akin to what we've seen on the world stage from Argentina. Like, even if they won that game, it just was that type of performance that you're kind of, oh, we've seen this, and it's going to be, can Messi get himself into the tournament? Whereas what we've been talking about for the last few weeks is as if they've been, you know, coming to sort of like be genuine, close to favourites at least.
Yeah. Richie is back with us. The Newsround, of course, is brought to you by Gillette in association with Movember. Effortless shave, magnificent Mo. You can sign up or donate now at Movember.com. Richie, before you kick off with Cristiano being your top story, can you think of a couple of players who went to a World Cup without a club? Because I can think of one English and two Irish players here straight away.
Oh, there's got to be many. Yeah. Because I'm going back to days when I used to actually scrutinise squads player by player, and there would be a lot of unattached. America was actually really good for that back in the day, back in 1994 in particular, probably 90 more so. But yeah, who are yours?
Well, Frank Lampard was without a club 2014, had just left Chelsea at that stage. Gary Breen in 2002 had just left Coventry, and
on his way to Inter Milan.
Yeah, and Tony Cascarino in 1994, don't think he kicked the ball at that World Cup in America, but he went unattached as well.
I think he got on in one of the games, possibly against Norway. Maybe
nobody will ever know. Nobody will ever check that, Richie.
It was a glory.
No, nobody's gone back to check that one. But yeah, and he went on to Marseille. So it's always a good proving ground to go on and get yourself a decent club after the World Cup. But I think there probably have been a few more to search.
Maybe a shop window for Cristiano Ronaldo. So we're kicking the news round off. He's leaving Manchester United, Richie.
On a jet plane, Cristiano Ronaldo leaving the club with immediate effect. The 37-year-old, of course, strongly criticised the owner's management and some of his Old Trafford teammates during that controversial interview last week on TV. United, who said they were exploring legal action following Ronaldo's comments, have thanked him for his contribution across his two spells, adding that they remain focused on, quote, delivering success on the pitch.
And on 53106, they gave Cristiano Ronaldo everything he wanted. They should have made him train with the reserves and run down his contract, worth every penny. That comes back to your point about vindictive on this one, Mick. They could, the 1 year trigger was even there available. They could have said, hey, let's play out the rest of your career here in the reserves.
Being vindictive is very expensive.
It is.
And also could backfire in that you've got a rather large figure hanging around your club, turning up for work every day, causing disruption. Eric Ten Hag doesn't want any of that nonsense. This is the best thing that could happen to him. Played it brilliantly, I would say. I don't know if you agree, Richie, but I would say Ten Hag has played this from day one. He didn't want Ronaldo at the club, but I feel like the only misstep, I would say, was putting him back in and giving him that one more chance as a lead. I don't think he should have ever led United out as a captain again after leaving the stadium and refusing to come on that time. I think that was a mistake, but not a fatal one. And I think if I was a United fan, which I'm most certainly not, I'd be delighted with the way that they seem like they have a manager who's properly in control for the first time since 2013.
Yeah, captaincy is a largely optical thing, and it means nothing more often than not in football now these days. But the symbolic nature of sending him out as captain after what he did against Spurs was ludicrous. I don't know. I would praise Ten Hag in the main for how he's handled it, but I think probably they would have been better off, and I think everybody can see that now, getting rid of him in the summer. Like, he was making moves to want to go. Ten Hag clearly had to be sold on him to some degree to keep him. I just think it would have suited all parties to have this done 6 months ago, rather than the ugliness that's gone on in the last week and a half that's precipitated his departure. But he's gone, and Ten Hag doesn't have to deal with it anymore. He'll have a press conference before their first game back around St. Stephen's Day, and that'll probably be the last time he'll be asked about it. And for that alone, I think it's a brilliant decision, because he will be no longer dominating conversation around Manchester United. They can finally move on.
Yeah, the headline's very much going to be dominated by Saudi Arabia after that fantastic win, Richie.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia following that incredible win this morning in Lusail. Despite falling behind to a first half Lionel Messi penalty, the Saudis came from behind to beat Argentina 2-1 and sit top of Group C tonight. Second half goals from Saleh Al-Shehri and Salem Al-Dawarti swung the game in their favour. Saudi Arabian manager Hervé Renard felt Argentina underestimated his own side.
We'll hopefully hear from Bernard in a little bit. Mexico and Poland finishing up goalless in Group C. That was the other game there. That possibly helps Argentina a little bit there. Save from penalty from Robert Lewandowski in the 58th minute. He's still without a World Cup goal, Richie.
It's incredible, isn't it? One of the best strikers of his generation still hasn't scored in the World Cup finals. And it was a poor penalty, and it was a handy enough save for Guillermo Ochoa. But I think what Argentina will probably take heart from, not necessarily the fact that these two teams finished goalless, but that neither of them looked any use. Poland are really, negative and don't offer much in a World Cup final setting, and Mexico aren't much better either. And Argentina should look at that game and think, actually, do you know what? We could probably take 6 points from these last two games and probably finish top of the group between the jigs and the reels anyway. So, yeah, that'll be their hope here. But like Poland and Mexico, also rants, I think, is what we're looking at in that group particularly.
There's just a point from a texter there, and there was a few mentions of it today as well, about like everybody's criticising Qatar. Saudi Arabia is a much more probably vicious regime, and where's all the praise coming from? It shouldn't even need to be pointed out, but there is a difference between a nation and its supporters and a nation and its football players who put in an incredible effort. And it is a football fanatical country, and this is exactly, they were a massive underdog today, and I think it's a good news story, and it doesn't in any way reflect the Saudi Arabian regime, as it would be, by the way, if this football team were actually any use. There would be an element of that, whereas like the people who are going to these games and the players, like I think you do stray into a very dangerous territory if you're starting to suggest that you shouldn't like the players on a football team or their supporters because of
many of the 32 teams that were out there that will like if that's the bar. But I think you can certainly make a separation between the supporters who were packed into the stadium today, enjoyed their team getting an infamous result which will go down in World Cup history against Argentina. The other game, Rich, 0-0 this afternoon.
Yeah, Denmark and Tunisia drawing a blank in Al Rayyan, and as we mentioned, a 7 p.m. start in Al Wakra, where France are 1-0 down to that Craig Goodwin goal, the Adelaide striker putting the Socceroos in front. They've gone close again in the intervening minutes to making it 2-0, but it remains just the one goal between the sides.
I'll make one more World Cup point, and this is
so we're here for.
This is very important, and after my anger yesterday, I want to say something really positive. Right? Look at the kit clash in this game. France in their beautiful blue, white and red. Australia wearing gold and green. It's after years of monochrome World Cups enforced by, I don't know whether it be FIFA or the clothing companies or what it is. FIFA. People, England wore navy shorts the other day. Argentina wore their black shorts. I think that we overlook colourblind issues when it comes to these things, and we shouldn't, and that's wrong. But in this case, it's like there isn't an issue here. There's a predominantly dark kit and a predominantly light kit. And teams are wearing the traditional kits again. And actually, do you know what? I know it sounds stupid, but I think that matters. I don't think Germany wearing all white is right at all. You know what I mean? And they won the 2014 World Cup in it, you know?
Shorts, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, that's just a small thing, but I think it's a positive thing, and we don't have too many.
I stand with you here. Apparently, Spain are going to be made wear all reds tomorrow. I don't know where that's coming from, but that's what I saw earlier on today. So that's going to ruin everything. Up until now has been a
I'll be shaking my fist again tomorrow, Richie.
Yeah, the praise is going to be short-lived on this one. I was reading Jan Vertonghen's comments earlier. He's been very critical about the fact that Belgium aren't being allowed, Richie, to wear their chain strip, which had love and which had rainbow colouring going down the piping on that white shirt. But the armband is back in the news again today.
Certainly is. The German Football Federation are considering legal action over FIFA's banning of the One Love captain's armband. Germany, England, Wales, Belgium and the Netherlands were among those looking to make the anti-discrimination gesture before FIFA told them that they could face sporting sanctions. In light of FIFA's decision, German supermarket chain Rewe have ended their 14-year sponsorship of the German side. Their CEO claims today that FIFA holds a scandalous attitude towards diversity.
Richie's old mate, Adrien Rabiot, has been pretty key to this goal, which has been scored by France. It's a corner that gets headed back out, and France then work it back over onto the left wing. It's crossed in, headed home, and France are level. Goal apiece, Mick.
Yeah, it's definitely not offside. No, it's a good goal, actually. Slightly high line from Australia, but yeah, 1-1. Yeah, I did think we were a little bit premature talking about another possible shock today, but that Australian defence up against Dembele, Giroud, Griezmann and a certain Mbappe is going to have a few problems.
Adrien Rabiot header is probably not the way you would have expected to concede in that circumstance with all the attacking talent that's on the pitch. But Rabiot and indeed Deschamps on the sideline heading the ball into the net, one apiece between France and Australia. Dublin GA have got planning permission for a centre of excellence, Richie?
Yeah, granted planning permission for a new centre of excellence on the grounds of the former Hollystown golf course. They'll be allowed to put in 4 floodlit pitches, one of which will be all weather. The old clubhouse is to see its ground floor renovated to include dressing rooms with offices and meeting facilities on the first floor there, and a new extension will also be added to the clubhouse, and the total cost of the project even is set to reach €6.6 million.
Interesting. As you'd be aware at this stage, Richie is the host of Rugby Daily, which you can get in our rugby podcast feed every day, and you've got some team news ahead of the weekend.
Loads of it, yeah. Mac Hansen is likely to miss Connacht's URC derby with Munster on Saturday. The winger is nursing a thigh injury sustained in Ireland's win over Australia at the weekend. Bundy Aki, Finlay Bealham and Cian Prendergast will all be in contention for that Thomond Park trip, having returned from Ireland duty injury-free. Centre Shane Bolton could also make a first appearance of the season following pectoral surgery, but Tiernan O'Halloran and Sean Masterson miss out with respective hip and Achilles injuries. Munster remain hopeful that Joey Carberry can play some part in that Connacht game. The out half observing the return to play protocol still after suffering a head injury against Fiji, but Munster hope he'll be back training fully by the week's end. Antoine Frisch will also return to full training this week with a scan revealing his thigh problem ain't as bad as first feared. Keith Earls, Jean Klein and Liam Coombs are also back in the running to play on Saturday night. Keenan Knox though will miss that game at Thomond Park due to a knee injury.
And Richie, before we let you go, Peamount United and Anya O'Gorman have parted ways as well.
Yeah, Peamount announcing that the Republic of Ireland international is leaving the club after winning 2 Women's National League titles during her 5 years with Peamount. It is rumoured that O'Gorman could be joining the recently reinstated Shamrock Rovers on their return to the Women's National League next season.
All right, couple of texts before we wrap up the news round from John in Dublin. Shirley, Roger Media, an unattached in USA 94, aged at least 42. That is a very good shout for our unattached players at the World Cup. And also Paul in Cork, Cristiano Jr. will surely stay at United's academy. Yeah, Wayne Rooney's kid is there too. Will Cristiano now decide, Cristiano Jr., you're coming wherever I go? Welcome to Sporting.
He's not staying at Manchester United.
No, I don't think the club at the time. Mick, thanks a million. Richie, thanks as well. Time for the cash machine.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Now, somebody missed Barry's call again today. That is 3 rollovers in a row, and it means we have a massive amount for you to win tonight. If you entered since 3 p.m. on Thursday, you're still in with a chance to win, but you need to know this number: €70,251.53. Text play to 57557. That is 57557. You need to get your entry in by 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon You're playing across the Go Loud network of stations, and Barry Dunn will be making that all-important call. If your phone rings, answer it within 5 rings and tell him the exact amount in euro and cent, and you will be the one that pockets the cash. So remember that amount again, €70,251.53. Over 18s only, text will cost $2.50 plus your standard message rate to play. You are playing across the Go Loud network of stations. Terms and conditions on newstalk.com. We're talking Cristiano's departure when we come back.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, in association with Movember, effortless shave.